This is the Horse Radio Network.
You're listening to The Stall and Stable Show, ideas for happy horsekeeping.
This week, I welcome back Nikki Alvin-Smith from Horse in a Kilt Media. Nikki is a master marketer, and she is a horse professional, and she's been in the equestrian business for a very long time. So she understands exactly what kinds of challenges horse people come up against when they need to market their businesses. So she and I are going to have a conversation about best practices in the 21st century. Listen in. This is episode 100 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by American Stalls, a new experience in horse stall equipment. With over 25 years' experience in the industry and clients in 41 U.S. states, American Stalls brings an entirely new level of service to the stable design process. You can find them online at americanstalls.com. Today's Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. I'm your host, Helena Harris. In addition to American Stalls, I continue to be thankful for the support of Tangent Materials, makers of Tangent Fencing, and American Harvest Hemp. Welcome back, listeners. My guest this week is Nikki Alvin-Smith from Horse in a Kilt Media, which was founded with a mission to bring PR, marketing, and creative content to the equine and pet industries. Nikki has been around. She knows all there is to know about marketing, and she is a true horse professional. So her unique perspective is going to be something that I think everyone will appreciate. So let's not waste any time and welcome Nikki back to the show. Hi, Nikki, and welcome back to the Stall and Stable Show.
Hi, Helena. Thanks. It's good to be back.
It's been quite some time since we last spoke. I know, definitely pre-pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly been a challenging few years, I think, for everybody.
And how are you and Paul doing?
It's been a difficult couple of years. I lost my father at the beginning of COVID.
I'm so
and then
sorry.
we lost our two Grand Prix horses, one unexpected neurological euthanasia, and then last year the other one from a colic, but he was 27. So, yeah, it's been, we decided to retire from the horse breeding operation at Willowview Hill Farm in 2018-19 because we were so busy giving clinics and we were jam-packed in 2020. And unfortunately, of course, we couldn't travel and do any of that. So I was sitting home, no foals on the ground for the first time in 20 plus years.
Oh, gosh.
And nothing, to do, no clinics to go to. So it was, so it's been a challenge. But as most things, you find a way through, don't you?
You do. You learn a lot about yourself. Some good things, some not so good things. I'm so sorry for your troubles. But it doesn't surprise me because it just seems like the last couple of years have been chaotic in so many different ways. Yes,
that's for sure. And you have your new business going with your consulting business, which is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was something that I've had been doing without even realizing I was doing it for so long. So just putting some formality around it has been a game changer. And I thought at first, when the business model was going to shift a bit, that, okay, well, now here I am, this consultant, how's that going to work? I was not prepared for the amount of help that horse business owners wanted. I knew that they needed it, but I wasn't sure that they were aware that they needed it. But with every meeting and every phone call that I have, it's very fulfilling to be able to offer someone help who's struggling. And that's what you and I are going to talk about today. I mean, half the equation of running a successful horse business is figuring out how to talk about our business, how to market it and get it out there to the world, specifically so that we are attracting the right kinds of customers. So what are we going to talk about today? How are we going to start the conversation about marketing our horse businesses?
I think, well, horse businesses, of course, are as varied as any other line of work. And there's something very specific, I think, about a horse boarding or training business versus a horse business that's based in a product or service in terms of, alternative medical services, such as massage or acupuncture, that type of stuff, or indeed a product. It might be a supplement business that you've started in the kitchen, or some business you're packaging up in the garage, or anything up to major, blanket companies and manufacturing companies. So I work in my business is Horse in a Kilt Media. And in my line of work, I create a lot of content for various marketing avenues. And I think one thing for horse people in general, they're so busy usually with horses, on a day-to-day basis, they perhaps don't pay as much attention to how their brand building and what the brand awareness for themselves is. So there are probably there's two types of brands, right? There's brand building, which is where nobody knows anything about you. You're trying to get their attention to let them know that you're there and what services or what you do. And then the second part of it is brand awareness. And that's more your sales. That's where people know about you, but they may not know in detail about you. And what you're trying to do is they're in the market to make a decision on some point, and you want to convince them that you are their best option and convert their interest into hard cash, into a sale.
That kind of thought process requires brain share that not a lot of small business owners have. So if we can give them a shortcut to getting there through this podcast, that would be, I think, of great benefit. I want to go back to two things that you said. The first was that you create content. And the second was?
And the second thing is the PR marketing strategy.
So, we hear the word content. Now, people like you and I know what that means. But a horse professional might not get it. They might hear it as a buzzword, but they don't know what content means. Can you explain that?
Yeah, content, you've got to think about where's your target audience, where do they live? And you've got to create a conversation that's got to be informative, engaging, hopefully humorous, educational, that they can latch onto and gain interest in. So that might be a social media play. It's usually a combination. It might be social media. It could be on a website. It could be in material that you supply when somebody shows an interest in your business, either through print or digitally, to them to give them more information. And it might be blogs. It could be video content. It could be written content. So you have to produce material that's of interest and of import to your audience. And that's part of building your brand building, if you will. So that's people, they're not in your market audience at the moment necessarily, but you'd like to get them there. And then once they're there, then you want to give them more information. Now they're ready to receive it, but you've got to do it in a fun and educational way. So content writing is a huge part, and it's like a giant hopper. It's always needing to be replaced. So it's time consuming.
That's the hard part, is staying relevant, because you're competing with millions of other content creators. Because, really, the resources that we have at our fingertips are our phones and our tablets and our computers. So the digital marketplace is the most convenient, I think, for horse professionals. I have some theories about that and about shifting away from digital content, because everyone else is on digital content. And my principle is look for the open space. And this comes from my days playing college lacrosse. If someone's going to send you a pass, they're not going to send a pass into a crowded group of players. So you need to get to the open space so you can receive the pass freely and successfully. So in marketing, small business marketing, I tell my clients, look for the open space. Where are people not advertising and marketing, and then go to that space. Of course, it has to match up with, like you said, your target audience. Who are you trying to reach? If you're a local boarding business, well, it doesn't make sense for you to reach out across the internet to someone 1,000 miles away. So you might want to look at local advertising venues or marketing venues. Now, you write a lot. I know that you write for Horizon Structures. You also write for a magazine. So you're constantly looking for content that's relevant. Here's what I found interesting about what you just said is it has to be fun and informative. When you're approaching a written piece of content, what's your thought process like to make it fun and informative?
I think the main thing to consider with marketing is it's a good idea to, look where your target audience is and create content that's of interest, obviously, to them. And as you say, if it's something local like a boarding barn, you might think, well, I'm not going to step out of, the local area. That's not necessarily true, because you can build brand awareness, nationally or even internationally, and that can create all sorts of other networking opportunities and collaborations for you. And that might be in the form of bringing in certain clinicians. It could be in the form of marketing, sales horses that you get into doing. It could be get into horse breeding. So even as a boarding business, there's nothing static in a business, because you must always follow the money. And if you start a boarding business and you find that you end up more of a training business, then you might want to think about your unique selling point. So whatever marketing, I have articles in over 250 different titles worldwide. I've been writing since 1992, began with the Chronicle of the Horse and Dressage CT, and went on from there. And yes, I do, companies from Cavalier, Prestige International brands, to Horizon Structures, to Horseman's Lab, to small mom and pop operations too that are starting out. So the main thing you have to think about is when you say look for the space, you've got to look, yes, for what your unique selling point is. And that might be, and you have to identify what that is. For a boarding business, that's probably yourself, So the sort of 5 protocol things for people to think about, whatever they're writing or whatever they're creating, wherever they're putting it, is they need to keep it up. Continuity is important, frequency, the quality of the content's important, and what the messaging is. And number 2, it needs to be transparent. The audience, most audiences at this point are fairly sophisticated, and they'll quickly disengage if that content is felt to be misleading or inaccurate, or if it's a bait and switch. And then you've got to do you. So you've got to make sure that you are honest and frank, and be honest about your unique selling point, and look to yourself, ask your friends, ask other business colleagues, look at the market, look at your competition. This all comes back to then not everybody can write, not everybody is creative, not everybody has the time. So then you start maybe looking for some professional help. And at that point, as part of the professional standpoint, that's the same thing that I will look at. So what's the angle? How do the audience that we're trying to reach, how do they operate? What's their demographic? What's their usual activity? Obviously, there's certain days that are better than others to send out a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post or a Twitter post or whatever. So learn what those things are and try to keep up a schedule. It's not important to do a tremendous quantity. It's more important to do something of good quality on a frequent basis. And after that, the important thing is, whether you employ a professional to help or you don't, is be patient. Give it time to be digested, to reach. Products like blogs, they're the gift that keep on giving, right? They go out into the big wide world. People find them. They start resourcing you. That might be something that you might have written on your website, or commented on, or done something where they had written for you on your website. That might be something that was 4 years ago. But at some point, somebody's interested in that, and they will find that, and then they will see you as a thought leader on that topic. So you've got to look at what's unique for you and follow that.
And I like blogs because they're on a platform that you can control. So my recommendation is that every horse business owner should have their own website, even if it's only 1 or 2 pages deep. You can write whenever you want, whatever you want. And then if you decide that you want to share that content on the social platforms, that would be step 2. But in terms of searchability, blog content is searchable. So if someone goes up to a search engine like Google, your content is what we call indexable. They can find it through a natural language search on Google, but it's not very easy to find that on the social platforms.
Yeah, there's a very different, you have to really look at where you're planting the material. There's a very different edict for writing content for a social post, a social media post, than there is for something that you would write, say, for an advertorial, if you were advertising in a print magazine or in a digital magazine, or something that you might put on your website that where you wanted to show thought leadership. So there's social media is very good for quick catches, right? So if you're out competing, let's say, and you want to post some video or some footage of you or photographs of you, conducting yourself, getting there, competing, getting ribbons, whatever, that's all good social media fodder. But you do have to consider that most people want to know a little bit more beyond, how well you do or what you do on a daily basis. You've got to really have a strategy. You've got to have a regularity about when you post, where it lives, how it's connected. So you try to form a web, if you will. So, and that becomes, you've created some brand building, you've created some interest in who you are, and then you want to bring in you want them to consider you want them to be into your sales funnel, so you want to get them to trust you. So you've got to spin everything to capture, and you've got to keep everything in a certain, the one thing about writing is that you have to have an ability to write in a certain tone to suit whatever the product is or the industry or the service or the individual is you're writing for. So if I'm writing, I write on PR marketing for a couple of B-list movie celebrities, and part of that is part of my team responsibilities in that is writing, as opposed to a publicist where you're out there with them and doing all that. And having the right voice and having consistent voice and having that be trustworthy is very important. So whoever's writing the material for you needs to be somebody that has some experience, real life experience in what they're talking about, or some sincere knowledge in what they're talking about, because otherwise your readership are going to know that. They're going to pick up on that right away, and it's just going to become a regurgitated piece of internet content that that there's a lot of that out there, and there's nothing original about that. So you do need to make sure that whether it's a social media tag post or whether it's something you're putting up on a website, I agree with you, by the way, definitely. I would say that's probably the number one thing that horse business owners don't pay enough attention to, and it's not just horse business owners, is that it is worth it. It's very easy to put up a website today, and to not do that is really missing a huge advantage.
Now, before we continue this conversation, we're going to take a quick break so you can learn about tangent fencing. If you're tired of rotting broken fences, it's time to talk to Tangent. If you want perimeter fencing that's safe and durable with a classic style, it's time to talk to Tangent. If you want to spend more time with your horses and less time worrying about your farm, it's time to talk to Tangent Materials, makers of premium HDPE lumber that looks just like wood, but without the worry. To learn more, go to stallandstable.com/fencing. You can take a portion of what you've created for your website and repurpose that for your social platforms. But it's really easy to get sucked into those platforms. And so listeners, do your best to look at those things as tools, not as a place where you really need to spend a whole lot of time. What do you think about that advice, Nikki?
I think the main thing, the best way to use the platforms is they've made it actually quite simple to schedule. So anything you want to post, you can schedule. So you can say, okay, I'm quiet today. It's a Monday morning. I'm going to get my social done for the week, right? So you'll create your content. You'll have your photographs. You'll have your videos, probably from weekend events you've done, and you can put those together, put them out on a schedule so they pop out at different times, optimum times. The other aspect, so you don't, i.e., have to be dragged into a vortex. I think that's a choice. If you get onto, so let's say you log into your Facebook account and then you post your media thing, and then you go back, you get notifications that tell you if someone's engaging on something, if it's going a bit viral, if it's something, comments are being made, that are harsh or unwarranted or whatever, negative. You have to deal with those things sometimes. But at the end of the day, you can limit your engagement and still get all the benefits that they offer without having to step entirely away. It is a big bad bear, but it doesn't mean that you can afford, as a business owner anyway, to divest yourself of it. It's not a good idea, because eventually, your competition are doing it. And yes, everybody's there, but that's also an opportunity for you to shine in what you produce and how you produce it. And there's a tremendous amount of traffic that trolls, that goes through. Yes, your competitors look at you too, but that goes through that market. They may never comment, they may never put a like on something, but they're still seeing it. So if you're in the brand building side of your business, then that's something that you still want to do. And the other one that I think people completely miss is keeping in touch via Constant Contacts or MailChimps or one of those services. If you can put together, and they're very easy to use, you can put together a engaging newsletter, and you can send that out to your email. On your website, you should have somewhere where people can register for newsletters, and a pop-up or something where they can engage with you, ask you questions, whatever. They get put on your newsletter list. You create an email family, and you might segregate it. You might say, sign up to this one if you're interested in training. You might say, sign up for this one if you're interested in our new dog products, or whatever it is. You can segregate the lists, which is ideal. But then you can contact people that are interested in your business. You've drawn them in through your social media. You're not going to draw them into your website very easily on its own. That's a hard market to do. It's expensive. You can do it. You can do it through Google, you can do it, but it's not enough. So you've got to bring them in, and then once they're in, you've got to get their information so that then you can personalize the relationship and you can identify what they're specifically interested in and address that.
How can a horse professional determine whether or not their marketing activities are effective?
Well, probably the main route, there's several ways. If you're investing any money into sponsored ads on Facebook or on Google AdWords or anything of that description, then you're going to have the Google Analytics on your website. You're going to be looking at the metrics, and that's another area that takes a lot of time to go through to see, I posted, when you posted something. So I posted that then, how much extra traffic did I get? So social media platforms make that very easy to see. With your website, you're going to be looking for Google Analytics, and you're going to be looking at the data to see when I post on that topic, then people like that. So I'm going to write more material on that specific topic. So that's a way of gauging their interest. But obviously the ultimate, especially if you've got a product or service, the ultimate way is because you have people calling, you have people engaging and buying from you, your services. So the other thing I think that is another key PR tip for people to think about, for listeners to think about, is make sure that wherever you are, wherever it's your website, whether it's your phone, whatever, make sure that you have good contact, up-to-date contact information. Best way, tell them, don't be shy. So the best way to reach me is whatever, phone. Second best way is email. Third best way is whatever, So direct mail or whatever on the messenger or WhatsApp or whatever it is, tell them and make sure that your contact information is on everything that you put out there, because it's so easy to put a post up and forget to put the link on or whatever aspect it is. So some people prefer to phone, some people still prefer to, especially if they've got more in-depth questions they want to get a feel of who you are. So you do need to make yourself available, but it's no good doing that if you don't let somebody know how to do it.
Right. And I like that you say that we can tell people this is the best way to reach me, rather than us trying to fit into, we need to respond to every email or every phone call. It's okay to say, this is what works best for me, because then your customers are going to actually have access to you, rather than feeling guilty about not checking your email often enough or having your voicemail box full. If WhatsApp is the way that you function, it's okay to put that out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard. Most horse professionals, like myself, you're often on the road, you're often traveling, you're not going to be, you're in an arena, you have time, you have downtime, you might be sitting at a restaurant waiting for somebody to show up or whatever, but you're not going to have you're not going to be getting on your email. I mean, I know on devices today, but you just don't always have the best access even on tablets or on phones. So have a backup, don't go with just one thing. But just let people know, I am definitely accessible, because it's very important for people to be able to connect at that moment when they want to connect. Because if they go away and think about it and then they get busy, and then you've missed an opportunity, and that's a shame.
It is a shame. And I can't tell you how many emails I've sent or contact forms on folks' websites I've submitted to have nothing in response. And you go up to the website, you look for a telephone number, or you look for some other method of communication. And if you can't reach someone, we don't wait. We're going to move on to we're impatient. No. We're going to move on to the next business.
And that's another thing too with businesses. Don't overlook. Get yourself on Google Maps. I mean, people are out there driving about, and they forget that their phone's dead or something's on, but it will come up on their car. So they're trying to find you. They're looking around for a horse barn and whatever it is. They're coming to your horse show, or they want to come and order a clinic, but they can't entirely find where you're at. And also on your information you put out there, let people also know whether they need to make an appointment. If you've got a business, you don't want your day, if you're teaching all day long, you don't mind somebody coming up the driveway and standing there, but you're trying to teach your lesson. And while you might not mind the peanut gallery being full of random people, the client might, the person having the lesson might, and they might be sensitive to who's around and what's going on. So if you have a business where walk-in is fine, say so. If it's 24 hours, say so. If it isn't, if it's changeable hours, then say that. Call first or make an appointment. But just let people know how you prefer to not just be contacted, but how you prefer them to operate, because then they can they can plan ahead then.
Let's shift away from marketing on the front end of a business and talk about marketing to your installed customer base, to the customers that you already have. I like to think of customer service as a great marketing tool. Tell me your thoughts on that.
I think it's the cornerstone of keeping business. And of course, we all know that having a customer walk in the door the first time is hard. Customer acquisition costs can be one of the highest costs in a business, which is not ideal. And you want to get that cost down. And the way you do that is by repeat customer. And the way you keep a customer and keep them interested in you and your products or the services you offer is obviously by giving them what they expect to get, and also by ensuring that you have good customer service. So if it's a product, don't worry about returns. There's going to be returns. Expect them. Deal with them in a prompt and reasonable professional manner. And if you get a negative situation with somebody, just walk away. Just refund them and walk away. Don't even bother for the product back, and don't get involved with it, because it's just not worth your time. Right. So dealing with negative situations, that's something you also have to learn, because that's going to happen. But when you've got existing customers, value them, and don't just tell them I value them. Say to them, oh, because you are here and now, whatever, I want to offer you this special thing, or this advantage, or this discount, or this invitation. People like to feel included, and they like to feel appreciated. And there are so many different options in marketing, depending on what your particular industry or field or service is, that you can do. And you don't have to do it often, but do it when you do it sincerely.
So I was going to say, there are 3 words I wanted to cover, but now there's 4, because sincerity. You said people want to feel, I'm going to start with expectations, giving people what they expect. So it's expectations. People want to be included. They want to be appreciated, and they want you to be sincere.
Right.
Starting with expectations, that means being whatever you do right or advertise or use for your marketing, it needs to be authentic. There's no use in creating a super fancy looking corporate website if you are a small grassroots type of operation. Use real photographs of your business. We can spot stock photos from a mile away. But I'm a fan of saying, okay, this is what you're going to get when you come into my business, when you walk through my doors. So setting expectations is a huge deal when it comes to customer service. And then, like you said, making people feel included and appreciated. That's pretty easy to do. Well, I think it's pretty easy to do. It's simple, let's put it that way. And then being sincere. So authenticity, being genuine, being yourself, but also taking a good look at yourself and kind of being humble enough to say, this is how I am as a business owner. This is how my staff is interacting with customers. And how far is that getting us in our goals for good customer service? How far is the way we're interacting with our customers getting us when it comes to creating brand loyalty? So I do think those 4 things should be a part of every horse business owner's marketing strategy.
The other thing I think with people's getting to appreciation, you can appreciate difficult customers just the same way you can appreciate, your VIP Prime customer. And you can appreciate them by they are giving you feedback. You might not like it. And as you say, look at yourself. You might not like the feedback, but that's okay. But take it in, because 99% of the time there's some valuable seed, something in it that you can take a hold of and really look at. And it's it's very often something that you have sincerely overlooked, or you're handling it the way you think is best, but you haven't really looked at other ways to handle it. And let's say you're a busy barn owner and you've got somebody boarding and they're upset with you because you're not giving their horse the right hay or enough hay or whatever. So look at it and say, well, how are my horses? How's everybody feel about that? How is my hay quality? I know it's expensive. Would I be better off spending more and getting better quality and feeding less? Or would I have to supplement it with X or Y? Or how would I manage that? I saw a post actually this morning, and it was a boarding business owner, and she said, or she rescue as well, and she said, I just want everyone to know that come this winter, no horses in the paddocks are getting any hay. And I thought, well, that's probably not the way to manage the horses' ulcers and diet. And I understand it, the costs and all that, but you have to be careful that you don't sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater and overreact to things. There's always a different way or a way around, or you might take one customer and have a different arrangement for one over another because they have different needs. When you just are open and honest about that with people, or you might say, look, I can do this for you, but there is going to be an extra charge, and you're open and honest about that with everybody in the barn. So sometimes it can guide you, very often. Like with my business, Horse and the Kilt Media, started off very much in content production, ended up gravitating more into creating strategy and content strategies, collaborating with other people in the PR industry, including like the PR chapters of Manhattan and the Madison Avenue Brigade, and learning from people that are way more developed in the in the entire industry of PR, not just in equestrian, and really figuring out what is the best strategy for this particular niche or for my particular business, and being open to that feedback and using it. It's very valuable.
And speaking of valuable, I think your advice is incredibly valuable. So, Nikki, tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and where perhaps they might be able to engage your services.
Yeah, thank you. My business is Horse in a Kilt Media, and I also do some freelance writing from time to time. I do any type of content production, ghostwriting, blogs, vlogs, newsletters, press releases, all of that. But one of the aspects I do is I do a menu, so people can say, this is my budget. This is, and usually what happens is people might start at a set budget and then it grows. So then they require more services, but now they can afford them. So I try and offer a budget-friendly option for everybody. Some people want you as a full-on remote team member, which I tremendously enjoy. But then other people just want you to produce 3 or 4 items a month on a regular basis. So we offer that as well. So people needn't be shy. I mean, don't be shy. If you have a business and you're busy doing what you're good at, then it's a good idea to employ somebody that's good at doing the things you're not so good at, because that's going to create a better outcome for you, success for you, ultimately. So ask the questions, investigate your options, know what they are. There's all sorts of avenues that pop up if you keep an open mind and do that. So and as far as people wanting to get into careers in writing and marketing and that type of stuff, I had some very good advice when I was 17. My father sent me up to Fleet Street in London to talk to a director at a big PR marketing company because he knew I loved to write. And the guy said to me, well, you have 2 avenues to get into the industry. Write what you know, get it published, get your byline and start there, or you can come in to the business as a secretary. So needless to say, I took option number 1. And but that's the thing. If people are interested, if they love to write, if they're good at it, that's completely different. They could take that and make that a whole. It's like you with your consulting business. Find something that you love to do, that you're doing anyway, probably, and you're probably writing somewhere. You're creating something somewhere, but make it productive. If you're posting nice videos of horsey moments and you're getting good following on your personal page, for example, that might be a career that you can think about developing, where you deliberately go out and help people market their horse business. So maybe you can barter that for free board at your barn and take over. There's always options for people to barter services in any industry, but especially in the horse industry. So I encourage anybody that's got any type of writing talent to pick up the quill and go for it.
I love it. That's Horse in a Kilt Media. We will provide links to that website and to where you can get in touch with Nikki at stallandstable.com. And, folks, if you want to hear more from Nikki, she did a wonderful guest segment for us in episode 14 titled From Hayfield to Hayloft, about where our hay comes from. So I would suggest you go and have a listen there. Nikki Alvin-Smith, thank you so much. I learned something. A career marketing professional learned something from you today. Thank you. I hope you'll come back in the future and we can do some more of this.
I'd love to, Helena. And thank you very much. I've enjoyed it as usual.
Well, that was another very informative conversation. Nikki is a fabulous guest, and I do recommend her services. So we will post links at stallandstable.com to her website and all of her contact information if you're in need of some help in that arena. If you need business help, go to stallandstable.com and schedule an appointment, whether it's for your horse business or if you are a private farm owner thinking about buying your dream farm, or if you've just purchased it and you need some help figuring out where your barn goes, how many stalls you need, what you want to do with your horse life, I can help you with that too. Again, stallandstable.com, and go up to the services page and you'll see everything that we have to offer. Thank you once again to our wonderful sponsors, American Stalls and Tangent Materials. That's going to be a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.